What if the image of God we worship today was not revealed from on high, but chosen in a chamber of power? What if the face of the divine, the shape of doctrine, the words that define salvation, was hammered into place by politics more than prophecy? A single candle guttering in a cold basilica, the scratch of quills, the hush broken by the measured tread of a man who wears a crown and calls himself peacemaker. Outside, an empire fractures. Inside, a council argues not only about theology, but about unity, authority, and the future of a civilization. This is the question that should never be asked aloud. Could what we call sacred have been shaped by human calculation, by compromise and convenience? The stage is set for a story of contested scriptures and forgotten gospels, of voices silenced and a new orthodoxy inscribed in stone. In this opening, we refuse simple certainties and invite you to feel the vertigo of doubt, the unsettling realization that what you were taught might be only one version of a far more complicated past. This hook follows the project's established framework for beginning with a provocative "what if" and setting a tone of forbidden discovery. The year is AD 325. The Roman Empire, once held together by legions and marble, now trembles under the weight of belief. Christianity, once outlawed and hunted, has become the new force shaping hearts and minds. But with freedom came fracture. From Alexandria to Antioch, from Rome to Jerusalem, dozens of Christian sects battled not with swords, but with words. Who was Jesus? Was he divine by nature or chosen by God later? Was he the Son eternal or a prophet exalted? These questions did not merely divide theologians. They divided soldiers, cities, and even families. Riots broke out. Churches burned. Faith became civil war. And into this chaos stepped a man not known for piety, but for power, Emperor Constantine, a ruler who saw omens in the sky, who claimed victory beneath the sign of the cross, yet remained in truth a politician of the old Roman world. He did not seek salvation, he sought stability. To him, the church was not only a matter of heaven, it was the glue that could hold a fractured empire together. So he summoned the bishops of Christendom to gather in the city of Nicaea in modern-day Turkey, a grand assembly that would decide once and for all what the empire should believe. What began as a theological debate would soon become a war of ideas, a council where the divine would bow to decree and revelation would wear the robes of politics. As the banners of the empire fluttered in the Anatolian wind, no one yet knew that within those marble halls, God himself was about to be rewritten. Summer 325 AD, Nicaea. 300 bishops arrived from every corner of the empire, their robes dusted with desert sand and sea salt. Some limp from old persecutions, scars hidden beneath the linen. They expect a gathering of faith. What awaits them is a stage of power. At the center of the storm stands Arius, a priest from Alexandria, whose teachings have set the world on fire. He claims the Son was created by the Father, that Christ, though divine, is not equal to God himself. To many, his logic is pure, to others, blasphemy. Facing him is Athanasius, young, brilliant, unyielding. He declares that the Son is begotten, not made, the very essence of God. Heaven, it seems, cannot contain two truths. For weeks they debate. The air is thick with heat and anger. The sound of scrolls slapping on tables echoes through the chamber. Then Constantine enters, armor gleaming, purple cloak trailing. He does not understand Greek theology, but he understands division. To him, heresy is a threat to the state. Behind closed doors, alliances form. Some bishops seek truth, others favor. Constantine presses for unity, and unity demands a winner. When Arius refuses to bend, his teachings are condemned. A new creed is drafted, a statement that defines the Son as of the same substance as the Father. The words are hammered into parchment like iron on anvil. The Nicene Creed is born. Outside, the crowds chant praise to Constantine, not Christ. Arius is exiled, his books burned. And with the smoke rising above Nicaea, a new order is sealed, one where the emperor's word and God's truth are spoken in the same breath. The divine has been defined by decree. Heaven has been rewritten by men. The Nicene Creed spread like imperial law, carried not by angels but by soldiers. Yet beneath its solemn words, something far older was being buried. For centuries, early Christians had followed not one gospel, but many. There were the Gospels of Thomas, Mary Magdalene, Philip, Judas, each offering a mirror of Christ too human, too mystical, or too dangerous for empire. In them, divinity was not a throne above mankind, but a light within it. Salvation came not through obedience, but through awakening. But such a vision frightened Rome. How could an emperor rule over souls who believed the kingdom of God was already inside them? A faith built on inner revelation could never be controlled. And so, under Constantine's rule, theology became strategy. The image of Jesus, teacher, mystic, revolutionary, was refashioned into Christ the King, divine, distant, and sanctioned by imperial authority. Unity was achieved, but at a price. Diversity of thought was branded as heresy. Libraries were purged, scrolls vanished. Voices that once spoke of the feminine aspect of the divine, of balance and mystery, were silenced. The Council's victory was not only a triumph of orthodoxy, it was the rewriting of memory itself. In the shadows of Nicaea, scribes copied the approved texts while others hid forbidden scrolls in clay jars, buried in desert caves. Centuries later, when the Nag Hammadi manuscripts would be unearthed, the world would catch a whisper of what was lost, a version of God not owned by emperors, not bound by creed, a God found in the stillness of one's own being. The council claimed to define truth, but what if, in doing so, it merely chose the truth that served power? The story of Nicaea is more than a tale of councils and creeds. It is a mirror reflecting something timeless, the human hunger to define the divine. When Constantine and his bishops forged one correct image of God, they did more than settle a theological debate. They reshaped the spiritual architecture of the Western world. From that moment, God was no longer everywhere. He was enthroned above, distant, singular, and mediated through hierarchy. It was a transformation subtle yet seismic. The intimate inner encounter, the idea that divinity lived within each human breath, was replaced by an external authority, the church, the emperor, the creed. Faith became institution, and mystery became law. This new God, majestic, ruling, absolute, mirrored the empire that birthed him. The divine image became imperial propaganda. Obedience equaled piety, submission equaled salvation. Heaven itself was organized like Rome, with order, rank, and punishment. But beneath that golden theology lies a deeper question. When men create a single image of God, do they worship him or themselves? Perhaps every empire, in its thirst for control, remakes God in its own likeness. Perhaps the true divine, the one whispered of in those banned Gospels, was never lost, only silenced by the echo of power. For if God can be rewritten, then maybe divinity was never about certainty, but about seeking, the eternal search for what cannot be contained in doctrine or decree. Night falls over Nicaea. The council hall stands empty now. The candles burned down to pools of wax, the parchments sealed and stored in marble vaults. Outside, the empire sleeps, comforted by the illusion that heaven has been settled. But truth does not rest. It lingers. In the corners of monasteries, in the breath of monks copying texts they no longer understand, in the quiet of souls still searching for a God beyond decree. For centuries, humanity would bow to an image cast in stone and gold, reciting creeds that promised salvation but demanded silence. The living mystery became doctrine. The question became heresy. And the voice of the divine, once heard in dreams, in storms, in the stillness of the heart, faded into whispers only the brave would follow. But perhaps the true God was never rewritten, only forgotten. Perhaps he waits not in temples or councils, but in the space between belief and doubt, where faith is not a weapon of control but a flame of curiosity. Maybe every era must lose its God to find him again, not as a ruler above, but as a presence within. And so the question returns, ancient and undying. Did men create God in their image, or did they silence the God who refused to be owned? The answer lies not in history, but in the echo that still stirs when you dare to ask. If the truths of heaven can be rewritten, then perhaps every creed hides a question worth asking. What other stories, what other gods, were silenced beneath the march of empires? What manuscripts still lie buried, waiting for the world to listen again? History is not just written in ink, it's carved in silence. And within that silence, there are whispers, fragments of forgotten light, calling those who dare to seek beyond what was permitted to believe. So listen closely, not to me, but to that quiet voice that rises when the noise fades. The same voice that once asked, "Who decided what God must be?" It has never stopped asking. If you wish to walk deeper into the shadows of the forbidden, to uncover what was erased, and to remember what the world chose to forget, then stay with us. Subscribe and listen for the whispers history tried to silence.